all things film and sometimes film adjacent. And this week will be no different. We are going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of To Wong Foo. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. Should be a super fun discussion. We've also got a very special guest with us this week, and I'll introduce him here in just a moment. But before I do that, let me kick things over to my co-host so you can say hello to them. Jim Pugliafco is with us in the studio. Hey, sweetheart. How's it going?
It's going great, babe. Thanks. And I'm excited because it's been a while since we had a special guest, and this guy's a repeat special guest, so that's even twice as good.
He is. And if you have been following along with the Movie Bears podcast for the last, 7 years, he was with us, 7 years ago.
Oh.
Can't believe it.
Really? It's been that long?
It's been that long. It's been that long.
Yeah.
It totally is. But Will Lindis is here with us as well. Will, how's it going?
It's actually going great. Brad, Jim, guest to be announced very shortly. I'm super excited about this one. It's always great when we have guests. It's especially great when we have people who are part of our extended MBP family return to the dinner table, so to speak. So I'm just absolutely juiced for everything that's about to come.
I like your usage of the word juiced. Well,
I'm surprised that was the word that you picked out of that sentence.
I don't know. It's like 115 here in Tucson today. So juice, I don't know. It sounds refreshing. Well, Will alluded to our special guest, and he's a very special guest indeed. He was with us for our Guilty Pleasures episode all the way back in 2013, which is funny because I thought it was just a couple years ago, and then I went back to check, and I was like, holy shit. All right. Well.
2015 feels like a couple years ago.
Right. With everything that's happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally does. But if you don't remember him from our Guilty Pleasures episode, you may know this special guest from some of his phenomenal songs and music videos like Bears, Round in All the Right Places, Berlin, and now Nerdy Bear, which just dropped this week. Tom Goss. Oh my gosh. Welcome back to the Movie Bears podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's really wonderful to be here.
Oh, man. So pumped to have you back with us. Big week for you. Big new video premiere. Yeah. We absolutely loved it. And it's a treat to have you with us. How's the first week of the video being out for you?
Well, great. It's really only been 2 days. 2.5 days, I guess, and people are really enjoying it. They're really having a lot of fun with it, and that's exactly what we wanted to do. So I feel really happy, actually, super happy.
Yeah, I've seen it all over the internet like wildfire, which is awesome to see. It's been shared everywhere, and I mean, it's a real treat to watch for a variety of reasons. It's a phenomenal song. It's a catchy beat. There's lots of great eye candy. Curious though, why a song dedicated to the Nerdy Bears out there? Where did that come from?
It's actually funny. I was sitting at home, like we all are, on the computer, and I logged online, and this friend of mine wrote me, and he said, "Hey Tom, I had this dream last night that you wrote a song about this nerdy bear that was shy." And I thought to myself, holy fucking shit, because I fucking love me a nerdy bear. Like, I love me a nerdy bear. So when he said that, I was like, that is literally the best idea I've ever heard. And I had, I spent the first month of quarantine making ice cream every night and eating a lot of edibles. And and like in that, I was also playing my Switch a ton. And people were playing Animal Crossing all the time. Mm-hmm. So then I downloaded Animal Crossing. I started playing Animal Crossing. I didn't really get into it. I don't really understand it. For me, it's like all the boring parts of Zelda without the fun parts of Zelda. so I was like, okay. And then I was on Instagram or some shit, and this guy wrote me and said he invited me to his island. And I was like, oh, well, I've never gone to somebody's island. maybe that's what makes this game fun. I want to go visit your island, you know? And so I went and visited his island, and I had taken an edible, of course. I was just like, whoa, man, your island's so amazing, you know? It was so crazy. And then the next day, I started getting all these alerts because he had taken screen caps of me, like, laying on his beach and hanging out in his living room and, like, all these kind of things. And he posted it in this Facebook group called Bears Be Gaming. And so I joined the group, and I was like, this is the best fucking group I've ever been in my life. And every single day I would like go to the group and I would just like laugh. And some of it I thought was amazing, and some of it was just funny because I had no idea what they were talking about. You know, like all the turnips you were talking about. I was like, what the fuck are these turnips? You know what I mean? and so like all of those things were happening at the same time. And so when he said to write a song about nerdy bears, I was like obsessively stalking Bears Be Gaming. So I was like, yeah, this is what's up. This is what I'm doing. So that's how it happened. That was a very long-winded response.
It's a great
That's okay.
response. It's. I mean, there is a lot of overlap between what we're nerdy bears too. Not just about movies, although we are nerdy about movies, but in other aspects too. And this song and video really speaks to a lot of us, not just us, but a lot of us. A few of us are on Bears Be Gaming as well, and those different groups as well. So yeah, hand raise. But what I love so much about the song and the video is that they're filled with so many different, both video game and tabletop gaming references. You mentioned Animal Crossing, there's Mario, there's Zelda, there's Dungeons and Dragons. I'm even wearing my Dungeons and Dragons shirt because I had to represent. And so I guess my question for you is, what inspired you to include the specific references that you chose? Like, how did you pull all of these different nerds?
I think it's funny, you know. The second verse is a little bit out of my league. I'm not even gonna lie. But all the references and all the visual references are just like, I'm not sure that I'm a nerd, but I'm definitely a dork. And the thing that I love about nerds is that they just fucking love the shit that they love. Like everything's a 10. I love video games. Fuck yeah, it's a 10. And I'm a nerd in that way. Like if I love something, it's a 10. And so I do love video games, and I grew up with video games. I don't play many video games because I love them so much it becomes an obsession, and then I accomplish nothing else. So I kind of like, as I became an adult, I had to be like, you can't play this anymore. But yeah, I mean, those are my favorite games. Like when I was writing that first verse, I was like, oh fuck. I was like, oh, I need to put in the Konami code, because that shit, like when I was a kid,
fuck yeah,
and I was playing Contra.
Is that a real code?
Get past the first 8 seconds of the game, and somebody was like, no, you just press these buttons, and then all of a sudden you can actually play this game. And it was like, and there used to be like those books. Remember when you're playing like Mario 3, and you went into all the mushroom shops and like which box do you pick, and then like the book would tell you what were the best box, like all that shit. I loved all that shit. So for me it was really like, it just was a joy. I really wanted to it's actually interesting, the guys who directed Bears went on to start a podcast about Dungeons and Dragons, which is very, very popular, and it's called God's Fall. And so it's funny, I have the God's Fall in the book, but it's actually like an Easter egg and a nod to the previous video that we had made together, which was Bears. And so it's, for me, it was like all of the things that I love and all of the people that I really love are nerds. And so for me, I was like, yeah, this is all coming together for me. And I had to get some coaching on the Dungeons and Dragons complicated sentence that doesn't make any sense to me, but I think I know what it means.
Well, ultimately, what you ended up making was you referenced a player's guide, like one of those old school video game player's guide, and it's almost like you made a player's guide to how to unlock the nerdy bear heart.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. And it was funny. I was talking to my friend. I was like, okay, I need to, like, how do I say this thing? And he said that line. He said something like, +4 to saving throws versus Magic, and I was like, I have no idea what it means, but that's even the funnier reason to put it in a song, because it's very specific and technical, which you would never expect to hear in a song. So I shifted it a little bit, and then I wrote him. I was like, hey man, does this make sense? And he's like, yeah, that totally works. And I texted Aram too, the headmaster of Godspall, and I was like, hey man, he's like, that totally works. You're saying this, and I was like, okay, cool. We will like it.
I can tell you the video is so fun and sexy. And I mean, these guys are a little bit more nerdy than me, so they're way into talking about the nerdy shit that's in there. But man, you guys in that video, there's so much hotness in that video.
Oof.
It's insane. Like, it's just like so overtly sexy out. It kind of, like, I'm no prude, right? It definitely took me back, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Like, what are we gonna see in this? And then before you know it, guy's ripping his shirt off and, you know, twerking in his daddy underwear. It's so great. I wanted to know though, like, in this kind of weird time we're in, was this shot before COVID hit or after? And if after, like, did you have to do any? Was the production of the video hindered at all by that?
Oh, it looks like there might be an audio connection here, so I'm going to do some quick Jim translation for you. It looks like there's
It looks so fun saying whatever he was saying.
Sorry.
I was like, I have no idea.
No worries at all. Sometimes these things happen. What Jim was asking was, first of all, he complimented just how fun it was to see just like the daddy underwear and the ripping off of the shirt and just all of that stuff, which 100% speaks to us. But he then said, hey, given the nature of just the way things are right now, you know, with COVID-19, with, you know, the shelter in place and the quarantine, was this filmed before or was this filmed after? And if so, how did you work around that? Because I know that's got to be a lot of hoops and hurdles.
Well, the first and foremost, we were like, let's be really safe. I don't want to do this unless we're really safe. And it's in New York. We shot in New York, and I live in Los Angeles. And I texted it to my friend Michael, who's directed a bunch of music videos. We've directed a bunch of music videos together, and I just texted it him. I started texting it to my friends after I wrote it because I just wanted them to smile, you know. And he immediately texted me back. He's like, I want to direct this. And I was like, oh shit, how am I going to get him to Los Angeles, or how am I going to get to New York? And it was like, I didn't want to get on a plane. So literally my husband and I got in a car and drove to New York. We've actually been driving around the country for 6 weeks now, like in the most safest of places, with the exception of New York, no cities, like out in the north woods of Minnesota and Montana. It's been fun. So we went there, and I was like, we got to keep this whole set very small and very safe. So the whole set, including me, 6 people, we all wore a mask, we all kept our distance, and except when I'm grinding all over Jason, of course.
Yeah.
But
no complaints.
Yeah, no complaints here either. But yeah, we were really, really very safe, and and it was actually an interesting time to be in New York because I parked wherever I wanted. Whenever I spent like $10 parking in New York for 3 days. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, I always found a spot. I always did. It was like always free. It was so great. I loved it. It was really fun. And you know, we shot almost a month ago to the day. So, you know, nobody got sick. So that was good. That was really, and we shot at Rock Bar too. And Jason at Rock Bar was so nice. Like, honestly, we shot this whole thing in about 10 hours, and it couldn't have worked with a better, tighter crew and respectful. And everybody was super awesome about it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
So Jace, can you hear me now?
No.
No,
but I can read your lips. I read your lips on that one. I watched enough of that Sprint commercial, right? Can you hear me now?
Props to you for reading my lips. Yeah.
Well, Jim, I hear you. I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll work around it best we can. Tom, I just have to say, I can't ever go to Rock Bar again without thinking of you gesturing to your joystick on the bar. Thank you for that mental image.
No problem. I hopefully my man spreading on the bar is an image that will stick in people's mind whenever they go to Rock Bar.
Oh, it'll stick in our minds, all right.
But I do have to say, like, it was kind of hard. You know, there's so much of me and Jason dancing on that bar. It was really hard to decide, like, which pieces do we pick? And him, like, ripping his shirt off was like, oh my God, he's so handsome.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
My husband's trying to come in the room and ruin everything.
What?
No, I can hear him. We're staying in this little motel in a place called Gerlach. And there's literally nothing here. And they gave us our key to our first room, and I walked in, and somebody had been there like 5 minutes ago, and the entire bed was like somebody was just sleeping in the bed. We were like, "Oh, we probably should switch rooms."
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Well,
yeah.
Glad that you got a different room, and hopefully that's a little safer, a little more.
I get out the bleach spray as soon as I get in the hotel room, and the entire hotel room gets wiped from bottom to top.
Now I'm picturing you in your Princess Peach dress, doing a little spritzing and cleaning around the room.
Exactly.
Did you get to keep the Princess Peach dress?
I have it in the back of my car still, and I was shocked at how well that fit me. I like put it on from Amazon, and I was like, I feel pretty. Like I didn't have to do anything. And also we put Jason in. Hey, sweetie pie, can you give me a couple more minutes? I love you.
That's adorable.
Sweetie,
hey.
This is on video.
Who's that hottie?
That's my husband.
We know who that is.
But it was really funny too, because Jason, I brought him that Mario costume, you know, and we met the day before, and I was like, here, try this on. And I started talking to Michael, the director, and I turned around. He was like fully in the costume, and I was like, holy fuck, you are Mario. He looked, I wish there would have been like a closer up and not just like the green screen stuff, because he looked exactly like Mario. I was like, you need to keep this costume and wear whatever chance you get.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's like now you are both. I mean, this is maybe how you get the cosplay bug, right? Like now you've got the costume sitting around. At first, it's just Princess Peach. The next time we talk to you, hopefully not 7 years from now, you'll be in full Princess Peach regalia. It just completely made out. This is how it starts.
You know, I would love that. I would love to be Zelda. I mean, sorry, Link.
Oh.
I would love to be Link. And it's funny when I was playing. Oh shit! What's the new one? Shit.
Link's Awakening.
No, the one that was.
Breath of the Wild.
Oh my God, Breath of the Wild, so fucking great, right? And it got to the point where I can't go anywhere. There's a huge mountain in front of me, and all I want to do is run to that mountain and climb up it. You know what I mean? And then like jump off it with my like parasailing thing. So that would kind of be my dream.
As dreams go, I'd say that's a pretty good one. And I'm wondering, you know, man, you've seen a lot of success over the last several years with these amazing music videos and songs. What's next for you after Nerdy Bear? Can we get a sneak preview?
Well, I don't really know. I'm at the window, like for the good light. My husband's standing at the window dancing and trying to make me laugh now. This is what's going on. I wish that I could turn my camera and then you could see like the guy that I've married, and he's like so dark. He's such
we like him. He's our people.
He's underwear dancing.
You know,
is
it's
acceptable
interesting.
on
I
the
directed a music video for this artist. His name's Jake Castro. That released last month, and I found a lot of joy and fulfillment in doing that, in working with the next generation of queer artists and helping them find their voice. I'll be 40 in 6 months, and you know that's a little daunting to me sometimes, especially being in an industry where youth is power. And but I want to use my agedness and my experience to help other people. So I think I'm gonna, you know, I'll never not be releasing music, and I'll never not be writing and working with other people and making videos. but I also want to be somebody who helps facilitate somebody else's story or several other people's stories, and so that's where I'm feeling right about now.
I love that success isn't just about what you personally can accomplish for you, but how you can elevate others as well. So that's huge.
It's a community, you know. It's funny. Sometimes people are mean to me, and like people are mean to everybody, right? And I think it's, you know, but the thing I like it. I don't care about money. I mean, obviously, I'm staying in the shittiest hotel you can
in
find.
Gerlach,
I don't care
Nevada.
about fame. I don't care about notoriety. I care about building community and impacting lives and leaving the world a more positive place. And so when I get notes from people, you know, and I've gotten a lot from this video to say, like, that video really made me feel seen. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's why I do this. And so, yeah, I think for me that's success. I think sometimes you can forget that, but that's really what I always try to focus on.
We certainly hope that if Movie Bear becomes a future song that you'll premiere it here. But Tom,
Movie Bear.
Movie bears.
oh, hey,
Yeah.
it writes itself.
It's a groovy bear. You're a groovy bear. Behind them glasses, you a
Oh.
groovy bear.
Oh, all right. I'm liking the remix. Yeah. Okay, so Tom, how can people interact with you, like online, if they want to see your videos, this one, or how do people connect with you?
I'm Tom Goss Music on all platforms. So that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, YouTube, whatever other platforms there are. I'm probably there, although those are the ones that I use most often. A lot of people sometimes like find me on Growler or something like one of those apps, and they're like, you're not Tom. And I'm like, yeah, I am. You could just talk to me. So, you know, I love meeting people and chatting with people. And again, for me, this is about building community and having positive interactions and leaving this world a better place. So, you know, feel free to reach out.
Well, Tom, it was such a treat to have you back on the show with us. As Will mentioned earlier, we'll have to make sure it's not, 7 years before the next time. But thank you so much.
Whenever. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. You guys are so sweet, and I love you guys. Okay.
We love you too, Tom, so much, and best of luck. And can't wait to see what you got coming down the pipeline. Good to see you, Tom.
Okay. Thanks, boys. Bye.
Handsome.
Thank
See
you,
you
Tom.
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a blast.
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. He's wonderful.
I love Tom, and it's so great to have him on the show. I couldn't believe it was 7 years since the last time, but we ran into Tom at Bigger Vegas last year, and it was just, oh my gosh, it's so great to see him, and don't get to interact with him enough. So so glad he was able to join us. And for our listeners, once again, if you haven't seen Nerdy Bear yet, Tom Goss's latest music video, make sure to check that out. That shit is hot. It is amazing. It is super fun. Hope you love it as much as we did.
That's our big plug for the week. Go watch Nerdy Bear, movie fans.
There you go. Plugs accomplished. Done. Da, 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 da. Which is a little weird because our normal order is a movie discussion and then plugs. But you know what? It works. Whatever.
Today is a special day. We're mixing it up a bit. That's our Konami code.
Indeed. Hey, just because we did have a little bit of some technical difficulties earlier, Jim, if you wouldn't mind just saying a couple of things real quick, and listeners, if you could let us know if you hear Jim, that would be great, so we know. I'm
here. I think that you two guys can hear me. I can hear you both. So as long as it's coming through on the live stream, that's good. But if I'm silent on the live stream, please let us know so we can go behind the scenes and twist a wrench or some shit and get it fixed.
All right, folks. Well, if you're out there in listener land, if Jim is just, moving his lips and you're not hearing anything.
My lips. Yeah.
Jordan
Riley said,
hey, thanks, Jordan.
I can hear Jim.
Woo,
Longtime
thanks,
friend, of the show, Jordan Riley. Thanks so much for confirming, Jordan. Appreciate that. Mike Lovins, our very own Magic Mike and co-host of the Real Game Movie Show, wants to know if Tom has an OnlyFans. Well, Tom isn't here anymore, but maybe he can answer that on Crowler.
Well, you know how to get a hold of him, so go ahead and ask.
Look
Just
for my
tell him the
Crowler and
Movie
ask.
Bears. Just tell him the Movie Bears podcast sent you.
Just go to onlyfans.com/Tom Goss, enter the promo
Tom Goss
code
music.
MovieBears.
Oh, no.
Don't actually do that. I made all that shit up.
Oh,
but
no.
It would be great if we did do that, right?
A new super fan is enjoying a Movie Bears podcast.
Oh my God.
Bobby Miller is with us in the chat. Hey, Bobby, I think I saw you celebrated a birthday recently. I may have misseen that on Facebook, but if it was indeed your birthday, happy birthday. And if it's not your birthday yet, we'll just pretend it's early birthday greetings. But glad to have you with us, Bobby. Welcome. And hello to everybody that's with us in the live chat. We've got a bunch of folks with us right now. Good to hear from you all. As we transition to our movie discussion, and of course, we're talking about To Wong Foo. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. Try saying that 3 times fast. If you have thoughts about the film, especially because we're celebrating its 25th anniversary, a lot of people love this movie. Feel free to drop those thoughts in the live chat. Bobby Miller says it was his birthday the other day. Phew, I'm glad I didn't misremember. I was questioning myself for a minute there. Jim, Will, what do you say?
Mm-hmm.
Is it movie time?
I think it is.
Yeah. What do you say? It's like sometimes I think the app is auto-tuning us, but yeah. Never mind. This is what I'm
Who
hearing.
knows? Who knows?
Let's
Maybe it
get
is.
in the car and head to Movie Reviewville. I don't know.
That's right.
It's kind of a reference to the movie. Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. But I'm a little surprised, Will, that this week you're not a boy in a dress.
I literally, if it wasn't
Just a
for
point of
the
this.
fact that I was binging some other movies today and ran out of time, I totally had I should get out eye makeup and actually do some really awful William doesn't know how to do drag today. I didn't pull it off, so you guys don't get that. Sorry, but it was on my mind.
That's
When was
okay.
the
We
last
get
time
it.
we got that? Maleficent?
Maleficent. You
I
had
think it was
Maleficent drag.
Yeah.
Maleficent drag. Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Which is funny because she can turn into a drag in.
Yeah. It counts. It totally counts.
All right.
And
Well,
she has
we're gonna
cheekbones to the gods.
well, we're gonna go ahead and kick off our movie discussion. If you are new to the Movie Bears podcast, this is the first time you've listened. We talk about movies completely spoiler-free for about 10 minutes or so before we take the lid off the can of spoilers. So if you haven't seen To Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. For some reason, that's completely okay. Spoiler alert, I didn't see the movie till 10 years ago. So not everyone, has seen it. But if you don't, want to be spoiled about the film, no worries at all. We'll give you our thoughts and impressions spoiler-free and then give you a pretty damn fair warning before we take things. What'd you call it, Will? To Spoilerville?
Yeah.
I think that works totally. So hang tight, hold on to your wigs. Here we go. Our discussion of To Wong Foo. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. All right. So, Will, I know that you have mentioned this movie in the past. It's come up a couple times on the show. It feels like there's no one more fitting to maybe introduce this movie than you. If you wouldn't mind, spoiler free, of course, tell us a little bit about this film. We're celebrating its 25th anniversary. Maybe there are people who haven't seen it yet. Is it worth checking out? What do you think?
Absolutely. So, To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar came out in 1995. As you mentioned, this is the 25th anniversary of the movie. I remember seeing this one in theaters, which was odd because it's a movie about drag queens that I saw in theaters with my mom when I was 12, 13, around that time. just to sort of like set the stage.
Did she take you or did you take her?
I think it was just
Why
one
not
of those.
both?
This movie, and this one, it didn't end up being like a someone dragging the other one thing. Maybe pun intended. Because the three drag queens that star in this cross-country travel movie where they end up coming across this really small town and end up affecting the lives of the people there and having their lives affected by the people there. The reason why this movie was so accessible, even in 1995, was because of the three leads. We had Patrick Swayze playing the drag queen Vita. We had Wesley Snipes playing the drag queen Noxima. And John Leguizamo playing the young drag queen Chi-Chi. And that's why it didn't end up being like a movie like, oh, we got to go. It's just in the mid-90s, you saw movies with Wesley Snipes and with Patrick Swayze, and to a degree with John Leguizamo, although he was definitely sort of at an earlier part of his career. He was sort of like taking off as opposed to maybe having the prestige that the other two had. But this movie is really interesting because it was relatively well received at the time. I mean, it got a couple of Golden Globe nominations. But most importantly for me, it was something I enjoyed at the time. It's a funny, quotable as hell movie that sticks in your brain even 25 years later. But it also holds up. That was my biggest concern coming back and watching this when we were talking about watching this one, and I knew I was going to have to rewatch it. It's been a couple of years. Some jokes age better than other jokes. Some jokes just don't work when you've had time and context behind them. And despite this being a movie, with a bunch of, straight guys playing queer characters, that's kind of the only 2020 rearview mirror knock I can put against this movie. The jokes, the heart, the sentiment, the relationships, they all surprisingly hold up super well. I really love this movie, and if anything, I fell back in love with it watching it, because it's one thing to love a movie nostalgically, and it's another thing to love a movie for what it is in the moment and now. And this movie does that, and I think the biggest reason it does that is while the characters are funny, there's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of lines and one-liners and stuff like that, their queerness was never the punchline. Sometimes the fact that they were fish out of water in scenarios that added to the humor, but they were never the butt of the joke. At no point did this movie punch down to them. And for 1995, that's insane. And in fact, for even now, that's hard to come by. This is a great movie. You can track it down on streaming. All the different platforms have it. I think it's for rent for a couple bucks. So you can find it. And I recommend you do. You're going to have a wonderful evening. And we all need wonderful evenings right now. So I strongly recommend giving this one a watch if you haven't.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Definitely in need of some good evenings. Jordan Riley in the chat says you guys should do Birdcage as well. It's so good. Jordan, we're looking into the nostalgic past of film to derive some content moving forward. Of course, since new releases are few and far between at the moment, it's not time for Mulan yet. So we got to do something. So maybe Birdcage will make its way into the rotation. Thanks so much for that suggestion. Will, thank you for sharing your initial thoughts on To Wong Foo. It's a long movie title. I hope it's okay. I'm just going to refer to it as To Wong Foo. If you want to say the whole thing every time, I mean, certainly, do so. But Jim, how about you? What were your thoughts on To Wong Foo?
Yeah, that's typically how it's referred to, right? As To Wong Foo. Most people leave the rest of the title off. This may be one of the longest titles we've had in the podcast in almost 400 episodes. As we're approaching 400, this may be like the longest title. I'd have to go back and look, but this one's pretty long as they go. This is my second time seeing this movie, and I don't have a nostalgic touch for this movie. I came to it fairly late. Both times I've seen it have been like in the last within the last 10 years or so. And I really like it, especially the second time around. I think I really appreciated it more. especially given kind of the historic context of this movie, right? Since this movie came out, we've had kind of this burgeoning of popularity of, and kind of an injection into the mainstream of drag, drag performance, drag lifestyle, and almost more of an acceptance of it, I would say, since this movie came out. And I'm not saying it's because of this movie, but it preceded all that stuff, RuPaul's Drag Race, all that stuff. This movie also came out, I think, within a year of another kind of drag queen road movie, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, right? I think those two movies kind of share a similar or related DNA a little bit. Not the same movie, obviously, but and that's good to see. But I really loved watching these actors who, at the time, if you had said, you're going to draw 3 actors and put them in drag and have them play drag queens, basically women on the in this road movie, it's just such an interesting cast. You have Patrick Swayze, who is really popular, Wesley Snipes, and my favorite actor in the film and character is John Leguizamo as Chi-Chi Rodriguez, kind of the drag princess of the crew, and to kind of see her story arc, or his story arc as Chi-Chi in this movie, I thought was, for me, probably the most fulfilling part of the movie. But there's a lot more to like here. There's a great story about, when they get into the town and, kind of dive into people's lives. There's some kind of poignant stuff that really hits home there. I really appreciated this movie a lot more. And, I know that we have friends who probably can recite lines from this movie because they've seen it so many times. I'm not that guy, but I really, really like this movie.
Well, it sounds like it really hit home for you, Jim, and you enjoyed it quite a bit. And Will, I mean, you did too. I hate to bring the one that brings the party to a crash, so I won't be.
We can still be friends.
It's funny. I've lived, let me see, I got to do some math. I've lived in Tucson for 10.5 years, which means just carry the, okay. So up until 11 years ago, I'd never seen this movie. And I was working for a tech support company at the time. I was a manager of a team of folks who were taking tech support calls. And one of my direct reports for my birthday gave me a copy of this movie. And, she was kind of an older woman. She was like 72, very spunky. I love her to death. She's great. But she was like, sweetheart, how can you be gay and not seen this movie? Because we had talked about it before. I was like, well, I don't know. Like, drag isn't quite my thing. And, I guess I just never got around to it. And she's like, well, that's why I'm giving it to you for your birthday, sweetheart. And I was like, aw, thanks. And then I put it on a shelf when I got home and I didn't watch it for a year. And finally, one day, I had just broken up with my partner at the time. And I was just really, I don't know, looking for something different. You know, when you go through like life-altering experiences, suddenly you're open to new experiences. Well, I was unpacking boxes because I had moved out into my own little house. Babe, you remember my little house in Albuquerque?
Oh, yes. That little house that was cracked in two and half of it falling into the desert. I love that house.
You can say it was from a broken home. It's okay.
That wasn't you were from a broken home. That's true.
Anyway, I'm unpacking my boxes in my little, falling apart house that I rented just to get out of that situation. And I came across To Wong Foo. And I'm like, you know what? Why the fuck not? So I popped it into my DVD player because we didn't have Blu-ray players back then. At least I didn't. And I tell you what, the movie just completely blew me away. And it made me question a lot of my own views on certain things. As we get into spoilers, maybe we can talk about some of those things. But seeing Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, and Wesley Snipes kind of, I don't know, cracked the nut a little bit in a way that I didn't expect. I think there were a lot of aspects of, gay life and my own sexuality and, fears of how drag is portrayed and seen, like rubbing off on me in a weird way. So to see these three men, even though they weren't gay themselves, in this film doing their thing, it was a breath of fresh air. Like I felt like I was opening curtains and letting in some light that I just, I hadn't let in before. And certainly their performances are fantastic. Patrick Swayze as Miss Vita will forever be the drag queen of my heart. Rest in peace, Patrick Swayze, but Miss Vita is a hero of mine. But I want to talk about somebody that we haven't mentioned yet. And before I do, I just want to give a shout out to Mary Kay Meadows, who says, love this movie. Hey, Mary Kay. Hey, so good to see you.
Mary Kay,
glad you could join us. That's right. I mean, how could we have a movie about drag queens?
Drag queens. That's right.
The makeup. Maybe, anyway, they both work. But I want to talk a little bit about Stockard Channing, guys. Stockard Channing, Miss Queen of Greece herself. She played President Bartlett's first lady, Abby Bartlett, on The West Wing, which is one of my favorite shows ever. She's one of my favorite actresses. I don't get to see her in enough. But when we were rewatching this movie a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you folks remember, we were going to talk about To Wong Foo as part of our Pride episode. And then, life hit. We didn't record that week. I was just blown away all over again by Stockard Channing's performance in the movie. She's sort of this, I don't want to spoil anything, but she's like a mousy, downtrodden, kind of quasi-abused wife. And it's in the trailer, so I figure that's fair if you've watched a trailer for a 25-year-old movie. But she's, she's kind of, I don't know. She's kind of the heart and soul of that community in a way, and having these three drag queens just blow in like Mary Poppins on the wind, and work to change the life of her and all these other folks in the town was just something really, really special to see. So, I feel bad that I let this movie sit on my shelf for a year when I first got it, but now it's one of those films that I'll just put in and rewatch every once in a while when I need that little ray of sunshine. John Leguizamo in a dress, it doesn't get much better than that. Just saying.
Yeah, Stockard Channing. I mean, she's somebody who I love to see anytime she's appearing in anything. I mean, she is just so versatile and talented, and probably hasn't been in enough movies. I don't even know what she's doing right now. We need to IMDb that and find out what the heck she's doing. But that interesting to see Chris Penn in here. I mean, he plays a despicable character in this movie, but so recognizable. He plays it so well. Sometimes shitty people characters, the actors don't get credit for playing them because everybody hates them. But I think the performance is great. And unfortunately, I think we lost Chris Penn several years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think he's with us anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, man, such a good cast. We've got Robin Williams pops up in here. Here's another one lost too soon, but
yeah,
as kind of a special. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, he does pop up in here.
One of the performances, actually, there's two that I think that are absolutely important to me, and they're smaller characters. Of course, Blythe Danner's character of Beatrice is such an emotional core to a very specific scene of this movie. But another actress who she doesn't have as much to do here, Beth Grant. Beth Grant is just one of those actresses who, when she shows up in a movie, I am immediately transfixed. She is one of the women that's in the small town that they visit. You may also remember her in Donnie Darko. She's the I Doubt Your Commitment to Sparkle Motion. Oh God, that line. And then most importantly for me, not too far after this movie. So I first saw Beth Grant, of course, in 95 here. And then in 2000, I saw her in a more prominent role in Sordid Lives, which is another small town movie that has very strong queer themes. And because of that, I don't know what all else she's been in, but I forever think of her as just like the Southern actress who shows up in these like super integral, foundational queer movies for me. So Beth Grant will always have a place in my heart because of that.
Just like this, so many of the characters here are just so, like once they get into town, you can recognize some of them are more like caricature kind of characters. I mentioned Chris Penn's character. There are some kids in the town that are kind of clunky, the way they're portrayed and their purpose in the story. But yeah, just so I almost wish they had done kind of a continuation of this story a little bit. I think this movie is kind of ripe for like a follow-on film. Obviously, we've lost many of the actors now, but I kind of wish we had gotten something. I don't think there was one, right?
Could it be To Wong Foo, spelled TWO?
Yes, the two.
To Wong Foo, Too Furious.
I love it. And it could be John Leguizamo and Wesley Snipes reprising their roles at Miss Vita's funeral. And they'll talk all about how Miss Vita would have wanted them to ignite a new generation. And they'll go on another world tour.
With Taron Egerton. Let's use him.
Oh!
Like that's who it is. That's who it is. He's the new and they have to take him on a road trip. Those three leads, and that's the hardest part, I think, for me. Those three leads have such chemistry with one another in a way that is maybe a little surprising, even. Like, I feel like a lot of times you can say these two people are the strongest person, and yeah, you could probably have subbed someone out here, but I don't know who you replace of those three, of Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze, and John Leguizamo. I think all three of them tackled their roles fearlessly. Most specifically, this was a film that had the audacity to not rely on the fact that these are men wearing makeup and wigs as the joke. In fact, aside from the opening sequence where Patrick Swayze is getting into the Vita drag, they stay in their drag personas the entire film. Mm-hmm. And that's ballsy. I think they could have very easily tried to diminish those scenes and show more scenes of them sort of like in, air quotes, boy persona, if the actors felt uncomfortable or if they didn't, but they didn't do that. They all said, you know what, we're all in, let's do this. And the film is so much stronger for it.
And what I love about these characters is how the film leans into putting these characters in situations that could ultimately be pretty damaging and disastrous and problematic, whatever you want to call it. But they always come out kind of on top, right? They always come out kind of on top of things in terms of like, surviving each situation and taking the high road, for instance. That's something that I've always tried to do in my life. But like, when they're being like ridiculed by the kids in the town or whatever, right? They're taking the high road. Even with the cop, they're trying to stay on that high road. And I like the way that they portrayed that. This movie could have gone in different directions, but I think that's kind of what I love about it, is how these characters prevailed and managed to stay on that high road the whole movie. And not only that, but that approach that they use rubs off on other characters in the movie. And I think that's kind of maybe one of the movie's central characters is like, if you can empathize with people who are different, it can make you stronger,
Yeah, absolutely. Relating and communicating is really what it's all about. I think, though, we've kind of arrived at a point where it's hard to talk about some of the aspects of this film without spoiling it. So, Jim, Will, what do you guys think? Is it time to let spoilers out of the bag?
You know what? Us three young career girls, I think, should do that.
Oh, yes, you did.
All right, let's work some spoilers. All right, listen. If you have not yet seen To Wong Foo, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar, and you value your innocence about the plot, and to be fair, to be honest, like this is one of those films where it's probably a good idea to avoid spoilers. Don't take your enjoyment of it. Just go see it, then come back for the conversation. And it's of course your choice, Theo. But we're going to talk about this movie with full-blown spoilers here in just a minute or so. So if you're watching live, just a heads up, our plug earlier, we did it out of order, but it was Tom Goss's Nerdy Bear video. Go check that out. There won't be any plugs at the end that you're going to miss if you decide to skip out on the movie conversation for now. But if you're listening live or through the magic of digital tape delay, you don't want to be spoiled. This is your time to step aside and then maybe revisit this episode after you've seen the movie. Otherwise, spoilers are fair game. Starting right now, I've rambled enough. Where do you guys want to start?
Get your hand off my dick, buddy. I wanted to drop that quote. Like, that's one of my favorite quotes from the movie. And it's like, it's spoiler specific, right? It's the one time that Vita sort of drops character in the movie. So I don't know if there's really discussion there as much as I just really wanted to say that line on air.
It's a great fucking line.
How about you, Brad? Do you have anything spoilery?
Yeah, I guess for me it's just the Stalker Channing character, Carol Ann. She plays the downtrodden, abused wife, and her contact with Miss Vita, Miss Chi-Chi, and Miss Nagzima Jackson gives her the confidence, gives her the strength to kick her husband out, to take her life back, to take back her power and her agency. And I don't know, I think it's such a fantastic story in terms of sometimes when you are stuck in the biggest rut of your whole life, maybe it just takes, I don't know, like just something you would never think would pop into your life, like three crazy guys in dresses to, change your whole perspective on the world and uplift you out of that rut and just give you enough of a head start, right, to keep digging yourself out. I think it's fantastic.
We get stuck in these comfort zones, and maybe they're even discomfort zones. We get stuck in these situations where we're on autopilot, where everything sort of repeats day in, day out. That can be for good or for bad. In this particular situation, you have characters like the Stalker Channing character who was in both a physically and an emotionally abusive relationship. You had the Beatrice character, that was Blythe Danner, who was in this sort of shut down moment where she was only recalling kind of memories of the past with her husband and the movies that they would watch, but wasn't really interacting in the present. You had and even the drag queens themselves. You had predominantly the Vita character was so stuck on some of the family situations that she had and how she wasn't welcomed back into her. She had a nice upbringing in this like lovely, rich as fuck home, and that's all cut off from her because she's had to be who she is. And then Chi-Chi starts the movie as, a little Latin boy in drag and goes on to become like, America's next drag superstar, so to speak. All these characters got that because they allowed themselves to open up and learn from each other once they're all stuck in that bottle episode of a town. They had to figure out, like, what is the thing that's missing in my life and how do I get those pieces from the people around me while also giving pieces of myself to the people that need it. And I love that because I think this very easily could have been a good movie if it was the magical drag queens float into town and make everything better. But I think that it's better because everybody benefits from this reciprocal relationship.
Right. And that's what I said a little bit earlier when I was saying like they're like their good graces as characters, even though maybe they didn't see themselves as that, they were able to teach so much to some of the other characters in that town. And I think by the end, I think everybody kind of recognizes that and basically accepts them for who they are. And I just really love that message of this movie. I was just reading a little bit about the movie, and I know they do get to Hollywood at the very end, where Chi-Chi wins the title of drag queen of the year. But I didn't know that the crown was actually presented by Julie Newmar.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. I don't know. It just didn't click with me at the end, I guess, that had happened. I know that Julie Newmar obviously is in the title, and she comes up earlier in the movie. She's referenced earlier in the movie. But I guess that was a surprise appearance by her at the end. Yes.
And you have a very, I don't want to say young, but a much younger in her career than where she is now. RuPaul sort of, if we're bookending this movie, we have Julie Newmar giving the crown at the beginning, and you have RuPaul descending from the ceiling in a Confederate flag dress, going by the name of Rachel Tensions, kicking everything off.
Yeah.
RuPaul, of course, would go on to be, for good or for bad, like synonymous with drag to a lot of people. And in fact, I know a lot of people who are, I have a lot of straight friends who are Drag Race fans, and I think are also To Wong Foo fans. And I think those two properties have been almost like gateway drugs to queer culture. Like, I think they're both accessible and mainstream enough that you can sort of put your foot in the door and check out a little bit more. And then you end up taking them to some of the best drag shows in Austin once they want a taste of a little bit more. So I think that's really, really compelling to see that, like, and I don't think, obviously they didn't have a crystal ball. They didn't say, look, RuPaul Charles is going to have this reality show, 15, 20 years from now that's going to be the drag moment. But RuPaul was definitely becoming a name in drag and was showing up in movies. I remember RuPaul was in, I think, The Guidance Counselor and like one of the Brady Bunch movies. Like, you started to see RuPaul around this time a lot more in film. But anyway, it's just really interesting to see how both RuPaul and Julie Newmar got to sort of bookend this magical drag queen adventure.
That's
absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I love too that this film isn't just about the big, huge names. Every character in the town has, to some degree, some kind of arc. I really want to talk for a second, if you guys are up for it, about the Alice Drummond character, Clara, the little old lady who's it seems like her memory doesn't work anymore. She doesn't talk anymore. She just kind of wanders around in a daze. She spends a lot of time with Miss Leguizamo Jackson, and she ends up like coming out of her shell again. Like, she starts talking again and, reminiscing on her past life. And that scene where they all go to the clothing store with all the crazy clothes from like the 60s and the 70s up in the loft. Seeing Alice Drummond come out in her little boa, like flinging it around, that made me just like so happy for some reason.
Absolutely sends me because the ones that come out there were Stockard Channing, Blythe Danner, Beth Grant, and Clara. What's the actress's for Clara again?
Alice Drummond.
Yeah, Alice Drummond. And it's so fun. They get their coming out moment. They get their moment of empowerment. And it's neat because even outside of that scene, although that scene was so much fun, you end up with these other moments where the other characters in the town, including the male characters who aren't interested in the female empowerment side of drag, they still are able to learn lessons as well. Jimmy Joe and Bobby Ray and the guy with the stutter, I forget his name. They all get a moment to come out in their, like, at different points in the movie, come out dressed in like drag versions of their like boy clothes, like very elaborate and over the top. And it's fun because everyone gets to have, there's something about that where, and I know I fall into this rut a lot, And I am a gay guy. Like this, the stereotypes. We're supposed to be like the most fashionable or whatever. And that's, of course, problematic in a lot of ways. But you fall into these ruts where you're just like, okay, I guess I'm in t-shirts and jeans today. Yes, I guess I'm in t-shirts and jeans today. Yes, I guess I'm in t-shirts and jeans today. And I think there's a little bit of a reminder here that you're allowed to display confidence in yourself and to be audacious in the clothing that you wear and to be bold in the clothing that you wear and to put yourself outside of that comfort zone and to be proud of who you are and the clothing that you wear. And it's a lesson that I personally don't do a good enough job in my real life, especially during shelter in place where it's very easy just to slap on like a pair of like gym shorts and call it a day. But it is a good reminder that, we should take pride in kind of the way that we put ourselves out there, and we should allow ourselves to take chances.
For those of us who watch Queer Eye, love, you are so right. Just because we're quarantined doesn't mean that you need to dress down. You need to feel good about yourself. Put some good fitting clothes on and be sexy.
Thanks, Tanny. We appreciate it.
Holy shit, I've got a French tuck. How'd that happen?
I know, right?
Where'd this avocado come from? You don't want to know.
Make eye contact.
Will, you mentioned the guys of the town. One of the other really cool things that this movie does, there's a group of young guys. They're very disrespectful to the women in the town. They're catcalling them. They're being rude to them. And the drag queens teach them how to be better men and better partners for women. And it's not like this emaciating thing necessarily. It's just like, shut the fuck up and learn how to treat a lady. And it's a
harsh lesson.
Yeah, they go through this transformation of their own thanks to some cock and ball torture from Miss Leguizamo Jackson, as well as some other social lessons. But it's so great to see them by the end of the film, calling the different ladies like Miss Loretta, Miss Clara, like nodding to them when they walk by. I don't know. I just again, like, it's an ensemble thing. Like, everybody has something to do. Everybody has something to contribute in this film. And we don't necessarily see a lot of that. Like, how many films do we see where, like, oh, small town America, but there's just like two people that we're following. You don't get to know anybody else. And yeah, it's a town on paper, but it doesn't fucking feel like a town.
You can
this definitely feels like sorry, Will. This definitely feels like a community where you get to know kind of the core of the community, right? And you pretty much feel like everybody in that little town, right? You'd swear that only 15 people live there or something.
And from a production design perspective, not to get too kind of boring and technical with it, but like, I think that whenever you're dealing with a physical space, there's a certain type of magic that happens when a character comes out of a door, and without them panning up to the sign or without them announcing, I just came from the barbershop, where they came from, because the movie did a good job of setting up the geography. There are a few moments at, like, this small strip, and yeah, there's probably a few more buildings in this town that we don't see. We're just seeing the main strip, and we're not seeing everybody that lives in the community. We're seeing the majority of the people that live in the community, the ones that interact on a daily basis. But we get to know who all of them are. We get to know where all of them work. We get to know how all of them interact. We get to know how all of them feel about one another. When they go off their separate ways, we know where they're going. And when they come back out to the main street, we know where they came from. And that's all done through just the initial, 20-minute sequence where they're coming to the town and they're meeting the people and going off and doing their separate things. It's not a bold, in-your-face, a scene where it purposefully maps out everything, but it does a good job of just establishing character and location. And that's what that is a key part of a film like this. I love that so much.
I'm sorry, we had a little lag earlier, so I didn't want to jump in and then collide with you, Jim. It looked like you wanted to say something. So
No, I'm fine. I'm the one who's usually colliding with everybody else.
Well, you're always welcome to collide with us, Jim.
Collide, crash into me.
Oh no! Don't take me to that evil Dave Matthews place, please.
Next episode is going to be a deep dive in the full discography of Dave Matthews videos. Now, I guess I could mention favorite quotes, because I did mention that before, and I mentioned the "Get your hand off my dick, buddy." But the one that most stuck with me, and I don't even know if this is the first place that it originated, but it's the place where I most remember it. And when I use this line, I am referencing very specifically Vita when she says, "What in gay hell?" That has become such a part of my vernacular because of this movie. And I absolutely adore it. Do you guys have any other, like, and they don't have to be like, like memorize every line quotes, but do you have any moments or scenes that just like, I'm going to carry that with me?
Ooh. Like I said, I've only seen it twice, so specific lines are tough for me to go back to. But I do remember the scene in the car with Chi-Chi kind of near the beginning when they're on the road. I think they were at a rest stop or something, and she's like telling them like she's not going with them anymore, and she's doing the I forget what she's saying in that scene, like, oh no we didn't, or something, like, I forget, or it sucks.
She has some really good ones
because it sucks.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is it's like the Miami sound machine just exploded all over you.
That's so good. That's so good. I love the Wesley Noxema character when they're doing like, I declare, I decline. That is such good sass. I love that so much.
One of my other favorites is I want you to believe in yourself, imagine good things, and moisturize.
And what's so great about that, you know what? That's good advice.
It is.
That's good advice for all of us.
Well, we are definitely big fans of To Wong Foo, and it's been a lot of fun gushing over this film. I just want to take a minute, though, before we wrap our discussion and look back. Can you guys believe it's been 25 fucking years since this movie came out?
Like I said, like, this is one that I saw in theaters, and I think that increasingly, whenever I look at a movie that has been out, that's celebrating an anniversary, I'm at that age right now where I'm not a youngin'. I've still got some years ahead of me, of course, but I'm not as young as I used to be. But I am getting to the point where things that I remember in my lifetime are celebrating milestone anniversaries. And every time that happens, it is a little bit of a kick to the balls. So when you brought this one up and said, like, yeah, it's the 25th anniversary, before I said, yeah, let's do it, I winced first. I winced.
Yeah, we have one this one's 25 years old. And we just talked about Jaws last week, I think.
Yeah.
In the last
that one
show.
Was like 45.
That was 20 years before this one. Think
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we're dating ourselves with some of our movie choices, but you know what?
At least they're both in color.
Think about it this way. The older the movies we choose, the more we embrace our inner daddies. And in my book, that's a good thing. So,
sure.
Especially given our, what's it, the daddy underwear line from the Nerdy Bear song.
Right.
So, yeah, it all kind of comes full circle.
It comes. Yes, it does. All right. Well, we're going to figure out.
That's the line I said before, Brad, that I thought you were going to jump on that instead of juice. So, okay, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. In any event, that wraps up our movie discussion for this week. We'll figure out what we're doing for next time. But as we look to close out the episode, we want to, put some special stuff coming down the pipeline on your radar. And then B, we're going to let you know how to interact with us between now and next time. But Will, if you wouldn't mind, just talk briefly. What's going on with this whole Aglyph and Movie Bears podcast partnership thing? What's that all about?
Yes. So today is actually the kickoff of Aglyph 33 Prism. You can find out more details about Aglyph at aglyph.org, but it is the All Genders, Lifestyles, and Identities Film Festival here in Austin, Texas. But it's also virtual for anyone that's in the state of Texas. So that's not all people, but if you can access the internet through the state of Texas, you can attend this 2-weekend festival, both the weekend of the 6th through the 9th, and then the 13th through the 16th, Thursday through Sunday, Thursday through Sunday. And what we're doing as part of that, in addition to all of these great features and short films, we're hosting the Movie Bears podcast midday and mid-morning Movie Babble break, where we're going to be talking with some of the filmmakers and guests throughout the course of the festival. The great news is that those parts are free if you're even if if times are tight right now, I get that. So if you can support the Queer Festival, check out all these wonderful LGBTQ films. You should absolutely do that. There's lots of great films. But if you can't, you can still attend some of the free events, including our interviews with the filmmakers, for free. Just check out aglyph.org. And in fact, the very first video went up today where we interviewed the people on the board and the artistic director, talking about the festival itself. So you don't want to miss it. aglyph.org.
Yeah, we're super excited to be participating in Aglyph this year, talking to some amazingly talented filmmakers as part of the festival. So definitely looking forward to those conversations and hope you'll join us for them.
Yeah, really looking forward to talking to some of these filmmakers. I'm like 6 or 7 films in, and I got a lot more to see. I can't wait. If anyone listening here is in Texas or can sign up for the film festival, it's very affordable. You get access to all these great films online, without having to put up with tight seats and people talking in the auditorium. Check it out. The lineup of films is fantastic. So there's short films, feature films, all of them with LGBT themes and characters. It's really great.
Indeed. Well, we're pumped to be part of Aglyph this year, and looking forward to all that's coming down the pipeline. Guys, between now and the next time we do this next week at some point, let's let folks know how they can interact with us online if they want to chat movies or whatever. Jim, where can folks find you online?
Find me on Twitter. That's where I like to find out about movies and tweet about movies and tweet about movie news. My handle there is at JJP Out West. My initials JJP Out West, all one word. And you can also find me on my Facebook account, Jim Pugliafico. There aren't too many of those. You'll probably find me pretty quick. Jim Pugliafico.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much. And Will, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter. My handle there is @whatevercove. If you're watching the video of this, just look right beneath my chin right now to get that handle. Otherwise, just type it in. On Facebook, I'm probably more active there than anywhere else. Just search for William Lindis. There's a couple of us. Look for the one that is a co-host of the Movie Bears podcast. If you find that one, you're probably looking in the right direction. And finally, you can also find me on letterboxd.com. If you go there, that's a site where people review and log the films they watch. I do as well. Just search for William Lindis. Follow me there. I will follow you back.
Wait a second. You're a co-host on the Movie Bears podcast?
That's right. I was going to say look for the one with the beard or look for the one with, and I was just like, you know what? I think I actually, in my description, say co-host of the Movie Bears podcast. So look for that one. Look for the one that straight up says, this is the one you're looking for.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you, Will and Jim. You can find me on Facebook. Just search for Brad Harris. I try not to talk politics all the time. I try to inject some light once in a while. Feel free to just send me a message first. I've had a couple people from the show just friend request me, and I don't know them, so I haven't accepted the request. And one guy kind of yelled at me a couple days ago. He sent me a message. He's like, "It's been 6 months since I friend requested you. Why haven't you accepted yet?" And I'm like, well, I'm probably not accepting now that you're yelling at me, but just give me a heads up. Like, let me know who you are. I never know if it's a bot or, someone trying to scam me. It's hard to say. So shoot me a message, say hola. Let me know you're from the show. I'll add you on. You can also find me on Twitter at iBradPro. I'm not as active there as I am on Facebook, but I am there. And you can find me on Letterboxd as well at iBradPro. Folks, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on the live chat, or if you're joining us through the magic of digital tape delay. I'm slurring my words. I'm not drunk. I have a speech impediment and I'm animated. It is who I am. I can't turn it off. But definitely just want to thank you so much for supporting the show and tuning in, whether it's through Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, however you choose to access the show. We love you muy mucho, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody. And big thanks once again to Tom Goss for joining us to talk about his new video, Nerdy Bear. We love that guy. I heard from him after he popped off the line earlier. He wants to come back and review a movie with us. So, guys,
that would be fun.
One. Yeah, totally.
100%.
All for it. So, Tom, if you're listening back, we're very much looking forward to having you on back for a movie. Goodbye, everybody. We love you. See you later.
Bye.